Hi, this is the second in our video series of Thinking Like an Astronaut. Oops, we mean Think Like a Facilitator. And again, I'm borrowing from this book by Chris Hadfield, a Canadian astronaut that walked into space 3 times in his career, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. And there's so many valuable tips about this that I thought were applicable to my work as a facilitator and your work as well. So today's series is really going to be focused more specifically on when you're preparing and doing a facilitated event. So our 3 tips for today, the next 3 tips of thinking like an astronaut. Chris Hadfield says sweat the small stuff. I know that's counterintuitive to the book, don't sweat the small stuff, but in facilitation, everything you do has to be thinking about the details, especially if you're working with a large group. If you don't think through the details, something is likely going to go wrong and you're not prepared for it. So yes, I still say visualize everything you possibly can going well, but you're also thinking about everything that may not go well. So you're downsizing your negative risks. So for example, perhaps the room you have been given or assigned is not the ideal room, or the time amount you have is not ideal, or the people in the room, you have certain leaders that don't show up and it seems like they were critical, or maybe you get sick. You need to think of all the ways the gig can go wrong, because it can, and if you don't think through all those details, your client work is not going to be nearly as strong and as adaptable as you want it to be. So sweat the small stuff. Everything counts. You're always preparing for that disaster scenario. I'll give you a short example. I was really sick facilitating recently and I felt horrible. It's the first time I've ever taken medication. The only way I could facilitate that day was to take cold medication so my nose wasn't dripping like a tap. And I know that I don't do well on medication. I don't feel the same. I feel kind of a little lightheaded and spaced out. But I had a backup plan. I had my facilitator's guide, which was, everything was spelled out in detail, pages and pages, so my colleagues would know what to do. I had trusted colleagues, and I took the minimal amount of medication to help me get through that day. And I just told myself, you know what? You can do this. You can do this even though you're not thinking as well as you normally do. And that brings me to my second step, and it's about really promoting and helping your colleagues succeed. The case I just described was one where if I hadn't really trained my colleagues and given them all the tools over many, many years, and if we hadn't practiced together, the job might not have gone so well. I might have been really out of it and missed something completely important, but they were able to handle that, and they often covered for me for that day. And so in general, I would say always help your colleagues succeed, because that's going to make our profession grow. If people know and consistently rely on good facilitators, because you are helping your colleagues be well, learn more, passing on your successes and tips, that's going to help us as a profession much, much more readily than if we keep things and make it every person for her or himself. Our last tip for today, it's all about attitude. So you'll notice that on this diagram here, when a ship is launching, they call that attitude. They always want to keep it exactly on course. They're always looking for places where course could get slightly thrown off. In space, that would mean a very big misalignment from where they were originally intended to go. It is the same thing with facilitation. You always want to keep the mission in mind. What are you actually trying to do with this group? The central question you're having them answer, or the one thing you can do with this group that's going to help them just have that big catalytic impact. So you're about keeping them on the spaceship attitude, as that technical term was, but you're also about keeping your own attitude of, I can help this group. Even when things look really, really tough, you're in the midst of your facilitated gig, keep in mind, I can help this group. They are going to get there, even when it looks very dubious. Thanks again. I'm Barbara McKay, North Star Facilitators. Hope you enjoy your facilitation event as well as I do every time you do it.